Okay, the time has come to start robbing parts off of this. Specifically, I need the oil pan. I'm thinking I'm gonna reuse the water pump depending on what it looks like when I take it off, but I'm planning on reusing that. I need the water neck. I did test fit the valve cover. Does not fit over the roller rockers, which is what I suspected. So I am gonna finish that other one. I also need the push rod cover because the other one is bent and I can't see it sealing. I need this fuel pump block off. So I need quite a few parts off of this motor. And I'm gonna leave the turbo and everything on here for now until I'm ready to drop the other engine in. So what I'm gonna do is rob all the parts that I need off of this motor. And then when I get the other motor in and I get this truck out of here and I have some more room, I'm gonna roll this motor out there and I'm actually gonna do a post-mortem on it. Not that this engine's dead, it's just I'd like to see what 5 years of abuse does to one of these with a turbo on it. On a completely stock bottom end. Original pistons, never gapped the rings, never had the head off of this thing. So I'd like to see what that looks like, so that's gonna be coming. But for right now, I need some of these parts so I can get this other motor wrapped up. As soon as I get the other motor assembled and get all the covers and everything on there, I can roll it out here. I'm gonna roll this truck outside for a day while I paint the motor, and then the thing should be ready to go in the truck. Now I did run the clutch down to South Bend Clutch, and for those who are new here, this came from South Bend Clutch. It is a Chevy style pressure plate. The flywheel's been drilled and tapped for the Chevy style pressure plate bolt pattern, and it's got a ceramic disc in there. And I took it down to South Bend because I wanted them to look at it. I told them I'm adding horsepower. I want to know what you guys think about this. And the guy said, this thing looks brand new. You're good to go. Slap that thing back in there and send it. So that was good news. Didn't have to spend any money there. All he did was take it in the shop in the back, and he cleaned it up and took some of the glaze off of the pucks on the ceramic disc there. So I'm just waiting for this cold oil to drain out of here. I'm gonna let that drip for a while because I need this pan as clean as possible. I'm gonna clean this pan up, throw it on the other engine. I'm gonna have to yank this distributor out of here so I can get the push rod cover off. I also need the dipstick. I already pulled the tube out, but I need this dipstick. So I need to drill the other block out because it's still got casting in there. And I need to come up with a way to plug the rear sump dipstick hole that's on the other truck because I'm going from rear sump to mid sump. So once I get that stuff sorted out, then I can get the engine painted. I also like to wait for it to warm up a little. It's pretty cold here. And then I don't have to heat the shop as much, but that's the plan at the moment. But yeah, right now just robbing parts, gonna start disassembling a little bit. There's one other thing I wanted to show you guys. I've had all these parts collected I've been collecting them slowly over the last 2 years. But if there's one thing I want to show you guys, if you're gonna get into one of these engines, gonna have the oil pan off, do yourself a favor, spend the money, get the one-piece oil pan gasket. Because these things will drive you crazy, and you'll spend forever trying to get those in place and get them to stay put while you put the engine in, or put the oil pan on the engine, and then they'll leak anyway. So do yourself a favor, get yourself one of these. This is gonna make your life a lot easier. All right guys, I got the water neck and the water pump installed. And I was working on getting the timing cover on here, and I've got RTV on the gasket in there, and I noticed that this can actually move around. And so in order to make sure that this front seal is gonna seal on my pulley, I'm gonna put this pulley on, even though I don't think I'm gonna use this one because the rubber appears to be in really bad shape. So I'll either have to look into getting a new one or taking the other one off the other engine and seeing if that one's any better. But because I want this front main to seal, I think I'm gonna drive this old balancer on there, and then tighten these bolts up until the RTV is dry. Or I'm gonna snug them up so it can't move until it's dry, and then I'm gonna tighten them all down, and then I'm gonna pull this back off. But because this is setting right now and I don't have the other pulley off, and I wanna clean it before the install so that the paint and everything sticks to it. So what I'm gonna do is just drive this old harmonic balancer on there for the time being. But other than that, this is the progress. Push rod cover's on. I did get the dipstick hole drilled out. I got this short tube in there with the mid sump dipstick, and I need to figure out what kind of thread this is so I can plug this hole. I have no idea what that is. Luckily I have the dipstick and the nut that's screwed in there, so I should be able to figure out what that is and come up with some sort of plug for it. Other than that, that's where we're at. Well, the time has come to clean up the oil pan so I can put it on the other engine, because it is very filthy because I've had oil leaks on the other engine pretty much everywhere. It's 30 degrees out. I've got some of this stuff, which is amazing. If you've ever used it, you know. And we're just gonna scrub until I can't feel my hands anymore, and then rinse it off, and then I can go back in where it's warm. See you in a little while. All right, well, 10 minutes later, the garden hose froze to the ground, but I got it cleaned up, got all the oil off of it, and I dried it down with a towel. And I brought it in here, and I just hosed it down with brake clean real quick to get any last moisture out of there. And I like brake clean because it evaporates quickly. So I got the inside about as clean as it's gonna get. I'm letting this dry for a second, and then I'm gonna do one last little wipe down on it, make sure there's no debris on the inside. And I can throw that one-piece gasket on there and slap it on the engine. All right, so I got the motor flipped upside down, and I've got this mating surface all cleaned up. I wiped it down and then sprayed rag with brake clean and wiped all the oil off there. And I'm gonna put a little dab of RTV right there in these two corners, just to help that out a little bit. And then I'm gonna put the one-piece gasket on the oil pan. I'm gonna do one last wipe down on the surface of the oil pan, put the gasket on there, and I can set it on the bottom side of this engine here, and we should be good to go. And the last remaining piece to get this engine all closed up will be finishing that valve cover. All right, everyone, so this is the dipstick tube for the rear sump pan, and it threads into the block with this nut here. And these dipsticks are really hard to find, and I don't really want to ruin it, so I don't want to cut it apart to use this to plug the hole. But basically I need to plug the hole, and I don't really like the way this looks, and I don't really want the dipstick on the engine. So I figured out that this is 5/8 18 threads, basically just fine threaded 5/8. And this seals on this shoulder right here on the actual tube itself and not on the nut. And so what I'm gonna do is take this fine threaded 5/8 bolt and turn it down in the lathe to the same diameter as that other one, and then I'm gonna put a shoulder on here, and then I'm gonna cut it off and give myself a nice sealing surface, and then I'll just thread this bolt in the block as a plug. So basically, long story short, they don't make a plug, so I'm making my own. All right, so what we're doing now is turning down our first shoulder, and you can see this micrometer just starting to slip over this. So I'm gonna go back and make sure that this is adjusted right to the other fitting, and I'm probably gonna end up taking another 1,000th off of it. Huh? not, it slips right over there. So this is good for our first step. And so now what I need to work on is taking down the next notch in here for our sealing surface. So you guys can see here what I'm going for. I'm trying to mimic this piece here. And so I'm just gonna make a mark over here. And that's gonna be where my shoulder ends up at. Not real precise, doesn't really need to be. This can stick out of the block a little bit. I just need this shoulder to be square and give it a good surface to seal on. All right, here's the finished product. I'm not sure if it's actually gonna work or not, but that's my attempt at a homemade plug for this dipstick. All right, everyone, so this does thread in the block, but my concern has come to fruition. The hex does hit the casting in the block. And so, just because I'm bored and I'm a little curious if I can do it on our old primitive machines that we have at the farm, I'm gonna try and mill this down to a smaller hex size. Now I could just cut a square in it and thread this in with a crescent wrench, but just out of curiosity, because I've always wondered if I could do it, I'm gonna try and turn this down maybe from, this is a 7/8, maybe I can turn this down to 5/8 or 11/16 or something like that, and it should clear no problem. I mean, it's just barely catching, but just to see if I can do it, I think I'm gonna try and chuck this in the mill and see if I can't make this a smaller size. Because why not? Alright, so here's the plan. I'm not sure if this is gonna work or not. I may have to scrap this whole thing and start over when I get done, but I know all the real machinists out there are probably screaming at their TVs right now. But what I've done is welded this 11/16 wrench size nut on top of there, and I'm using it as a guide, and I'm gonna machine off any excess on the sides. So I'm gonna go, and I've also got a nut threaded on there in phase with the head of the bolt. So I'm gonna machine off the right side and the left side of this, and then I'll flip it one flat, do the same thing, and then flip it one more time and take off the sides again, and hopefully have an 11/16 head on this bolt. And then I can just knock that nut off of there, throw it away, and then resurface the top of the bolt. All right, So here's what we got now. And an 11/16 wrench does fit on there. I tried it. So now what I need to do is knock this nut off here, and then I'll chuck this in the lathe, and I'll just face this real quick to take that, knock that weld, whatever's gonna be left on there, off. And then I'll maybe just round the corners a little bit, take a little bit of the edge off. And that'll be it, I hope. We'll see. All right, well, here you have it, the finished product. Turned down to, well, milled down to 11/16 socket. Hopefully it's somewhat centered, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, sometimes if you can't get the right parts, you just gotta make them. Well, that works. I got a new harmonic balancer, and I've got to take it back. This is supposed to be press fit. So, it's got to go back. Hopefully I can even source the right one. But that's going to be it for this video. I'll get that sorted out. That's not a big deal, I guess. I'll get that sorted out and finish this valve cover. And the next video you see, hopefully, will be me painting this engine after I get it assembled, finally. But everything else is pretty much on the engine. So, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, this has been Wasted Paycheck Garage.